Hi guys, this is Tech Howdy. I welcome you to this video tutorial on creating image gallery in ASP.NET Core 2.1. In the last video tutorial, we completed the bootstrap code required to create our model. Now we need to write the JavaScript code that will help us to load this gallery when we click the edit button. And to do that, we are going to attach an onClick event to our button and call the edit gallery method. Go to the custom.js file and write or create a method called as edit gallery. So the next thing that you want to do is add few lines of code. So the first line of code, which is creating a variable, and we have named it ID. All it does is it gets the ID of the selected gallery from the select options. The second variable here is to show the model. And as you know, we have named this model as edit gallery model. So all we do is we use jQuery to target the ID of the model and call the show function. The next thing that we are going to do is edit the gallery title of the model using jQuery and just add the ID. You can also use the name of the gallery instead of the ID, and you can do that by just targeting the name of the gallery. The final option here is basically the getting the text of the element whose ID is gallery ID. But I have added the element, but I have changed its visibility to hidden. That's because I don't want to show the ID of the gallery. I just want to get it when I'm editing this specific gallery. Therefore, in my model, all I have done is added a span tag, give it a title, give it an ID of gallery ID, and give it an attribute of hidden. By doing this, it is not visible, but I can still get the value of the ID. So within this span tag, all I'm doing is setting its value or of the text to the ID value. Now we are going to create our AJAX options to load this gallery when it is clicked. So we are going to add this code here. All we are going to do is we are going to call the jQuery's AJAX method, and then we are going to provide some properties, some attributes that are required for the AJAX method, like what type of AJAX call is this? This is a get call, and then what URL that you want to call. So our URL, you can go to the gallery controller class, and this time we are targeting the HTTP get method, which is get image gallery by its ID. So in our custom.js, we need to specify the ID. Therefore, I have concatenated the value of the ID to this API. And then we have to specify the data type, which is JSON. And then finally, when the API call is a success, it will return some data. And that data, we want to display it onto a table that is dynamically loaded. So I have created a table with the ID of edit gallery, and I have the first thing that I'm doing is if any table body exists, I'm going to remove it, and if it does not exist, so it's going to add one. So if you go back to your model and you see I have created some table tag here with an ID of edit gallery table, but I have not included any table body tags. That means the table is blank. So as soon as the pop-up loads, it will try to create a table dynamically, and then it will first check if the table body exists, which we know it doesn't exist. So it's going to remove it if it exists, and then going to append the table body tags. Now the table body tags are appended. The next thing what we want to do is create table rows and columns and append our information to that column. So the data that we received, which is the gallery images, the gallery caption, the image captions, the gallery title, that data we want to show in the row and columns of our table. So we need to dynamically create rows with 3 columns. The first column for the image, the second column for the image caption, and the final column for the button to select the image. So therefore, we are going to do is from for each value in this collection that we received, we are going to run a for loop. In jQuery, to run loop, we call the each method, and you can get more information on jQuery's official website on the each method. And I'm not going to explain and spend time explaining it again. In my previous video tutorials, I have explained it as well, so I'm not going to explain it again. So all we are going to do is we're going to iterate through each values, and then we are going to append it to the dynamically created table row. And to create the table row, we are going to write a method called as build edit row. And in this method, we are going to pass each value as the parameter that we receive from the function when the success of our API call is achieved. So let's go ahead and create this method which will help us to build the table row dynamically, which is build edit row.
So now we are going to go ahead and create the method that is going to build a table row dynamically for us in this table, and based on the number of image files that we receive from our API call. So now the first thing that we want to do is create a method with the name build edit row and pass the value parameter to it. Next thing we want to do is create a variable, and let's call this variable as new edit row. And we also have to finally return the value of this new edit row when we call this method. So we are following basically the same principle that we used to create the uh, dynamic table row when we are creating an image gallery, like when we select the images to upload to our gallery, newly created gallery, we do create a dynamically generated row table, and we are following the same principle here as well. So I did explain this to you in the video tutorial, like how this works, so I'm not going to get into much detail here. So I've already written the code to dynamically generate this table row and column, so I'm just going to copy paste it and then explain it to you how it works. So the code that we need to dynamically generate a row with 3 columns, one with image, one with image caption, and one with the button to select the image is here. So within our variable, which is new edit row, I have concatenated the table row, and within the table row, I have concatenated 3 table columns. So in the first column, I have 2 elements. One is the input tag and the second is the image tag. The image tag will basically hold the image that we need to update in our database. The input tag here will hold the value of the ID of that image. So when we get the images from our database that we want to update, all images will have their IDs. So that IDs, we are going to keep it hidden by using the hidden attribute. And when we are going to update the database, we will make sure we target the element to update by its ID, the object to update by its ID. Now, in the second column, we have the input tag, which holds the image caption. And in the third column, we have an input tag of type file, because we need to select a file. And make sure that you have not added multiple attribute over here, because we just need to select only one file at the moment. Previously, when we are creating a gallery, we were selecting multiple files, but in this case, we are just selecting only one file. So we have not used the multi-part attribute here. Now, also make sure that you attach an onChange event when the file is selected. So what does the onChange event do? It will select, when you select the file, when the file explorer opens and you select the file, it will fire this preview image function. And the preview image function, what it would do, it will create a preview for you so that you can see which file you have created. But as you know that the select file here itself, there is no button available for us. The button is in the last column. Therefore, whenever we create an input tag with type file, you will usually see a button with an option to choose the file. But since in our case we have put a style attribute of display none, which means we cannot see the button here. It doesn't show you the button to select the image. We have added the button separately in the last column. And now when we click this button, it's not going to load the file explorer. It will load the file explorer only if you click this button, choose file, which is hidden. Therefore, we need to trigger this event to open file explorer, and we can trigger it by clicking this button which displays that to none. Then how do we do that? How do we trigger the click on this button which is not visible when this button here is clicked? So therefore we write a method uh, open file explorer and attach an on click event on this button here, and when this button is clicked, it's going to trigger the open file explorer event. Now I'll show you. So let's create a method and save this. So what we are passing is the item itself, the entire item, and then we are getting the closest row when the button is clicked, and in the closest row we are going to find closest row to this button, we are going to find an input tag whose type is file. So the closest row, the input tag whose type is file is this preview image here, as you see, and then we are going to trigger the click event for that input type with the file click event. Now what does a click event do? When an input with type file is clicked, it opens the file explorer for you. So that's what exactly happening here. When you click it, it triggers the open file explorer event for you, and now you can select the images, and when you select the images, the preview image function is called. Now we have to go ahead and write this function which will help us to preview the image. So let's do that. So let's write the code, the preview image functionality. So here it is. You can pause the video and start typing this code. So all this code does is it helps us to preview the selected image. So it passes the selected image to the input and then into the parameter, and then but then we see if the count of the files is greater than one, or if we have one file is selected, then we are going to call the reader.onload function. Now, as I told you in the earlier video, the reader.read as data URL is the HTML5 browsers objects and methods that are available, and more information can be available on MD and docs about all the objects and APIs and their methods that you can access in an HTML5 browser. In the previous video tutorial, we used these methods like the file API, the read as data URL, to the form data objects to load the form data, to view the form data. Similarly, we are using the reader.read as data URL method to read the selected file and display it. So now the preview image function will be called once the file explorer is triggered, and as you see here, when you select it, it will make a preview of the image here, and so it will find the parent element, which is basically the inputs closest tr, input stacks closest tr, and then it will find the element with the tag image and the attribute source of that image tag. It's going to change it to the selected images source. So in that way, we would be able to preview this image here in this row. So now that should be it for this video tutorial. In the next video tutorial, we will continue coding this JavaScript method, and in the final stage of this JavaScript method, all we want to do is when the save button is clicked, we submit the entire form using AJAX and update our database and our server. So we will do that in the next video tutorial. So please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching Tech Howdy.